channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's Newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
You'll have one of me one day.
Yeah, for dartball practice. Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 11 o'clock. You're with GB News in London, and tonight the top story from the newsroom. Both the King and Queen were both visibly emotional hearing about veterans' experiences of D-Day during commemorative events earlier on today. The royal couple have been in Portsmouth to mark 80 years since the World War II operation began, and Princess Anne has been attending a service in France. Speaking earlier, His Majesty paid tribute to veterans, saying their stories could not fail to inspire the nation.
Let us once again commit ourselves always to remember, cherish and honour those who served that day and to live up to the freedom they died for by balancing rights with civic responsibilities to our country. For we are all eternally in their debt.
His Majesty the King. And in an election offering to ex-servicemen and women on the 80th anniversary of D-Day, Rishi Sunak has pledged to cut rail fares for veterans and enshrine their rights in law. The Prime Minister says a new Veterans Bill is going to be introduced if he returns to number 10. It's the latest Conservative pledge to be announced following the first TV debate of the election campaign last night, when the Prime Minister and Sir Keir Starmer clashed over accusations about money in Labour's financial plans. Well, in other election news today, Sir Keir Starmer also defended his choice to rely solely on the NHS, despite earning £128,000 a year as an MP and opposition leader. In an interview with GB News, the Labour leader said he has unwavering confidence in the health service and referenced life-saving treatment that his mother once received. He says it was the NHS that pulled her through.
I grew up with my mum suffering. She was extremely ill. She nearly died several times, and she was treated on every occasion by the NHS on an urgent basis. I have 100% confidence in the NHS, and that is why I wouldn't use anything other than the NHS, and I wouldn't for my relatives. But this is a lived experience for me, because as I was growing up, particularly when I was a teenager, I was in the high dependency unit with my mum, and we nearly lost her a number of times, but she was absolutely clear that it was the NHS that pulled her through every time. I say thank you to them, and I would use them.
And when you were DPP, did you have it then? Private healthcare?
No, I didn't.
Sir Keir Starmer. Well, it was an emotional time in the Welsh Senate today as the First Minister, Vaughan Gething, wiped away tears as colleagues spoke to defend him in the Welsh Parliament. But he still went on to lose a no-confidence vote. It follows criticism over accusations of accepting donations from convicted criminals and misleading the COVID inquiry over deleted messages. He's called the defeat a desperate gimmick by the Conservatives, and he's defiant that he won't step down.
Today was an exercise in muck throwing. The range of different things that were said that members know are simply not true is really quite disgraceful. I'm going tonight to Normandy. I should have been in Portsmouth today honouring our D-Day veterans. I will go to Normandy to do my duty for my country, as any First Minister should. That means a long drive overnight to arrive to do the right thing tomorrow. That's how I feel about serving my country, and that's my intention now and for the future.
Vaughan Gething speaking earlier. And finally, the first banknotes carrying a portrait of King Charles have gone into circulation today. Notes that feature the late Queen Elizabeth II will remain legal tender and co-circulate alongside those bearing the King's image. The new notes will only be printed to replace those that are worn out or to meet any overall increase in demand in order to minimise the environmental and financial impact of the change. That's the news. For the latest stories, do sign up to GB News Alerts, scan the QR code on the screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. It's your first look at Thursday's newspapers with me, Andrew Doyle. Tonight I'm joined by two top comedians, the safe pair of hands, Steve N. Allen, and dangerous cluster of personality traits, Lewis Schaefer. And Lewis, I saw that you put out a tweet asking your fans which tie you should wear. You gave them 3 options and you went for that one.
I don't listen to my fans. What do they know?
Well, they're only trying to sabotage you anyway, aren't they, with their votes?
By watching me.
But yeah, exactly.
They're trying to hurt my career. No, I think this is a nice one. It's a Jaeger tie, and I think I paid £2 for it.
It's a drink, isn't it?
This is
that the stain that's on?
Probably. This is an expensive tie that someone paid a lot of money for.
Whereas, Steve, you always look, you don't need a public vote to decide what you wear.
This is not a democry.
No,
it's
a
dictatorship tie.
And you have taste.
Yeah.
So, unlike your partner there. OK, so look, we're going to start by looking at the front cover of Thursday's front pages. So, the Daily Mail is leading with Our Eternal Debt to the Fallen Heroes. That's the D-Day story. Telegraph has Hunt issues challenge to Starmer over taxes on property. The Guardian is running with Sunak lied to country over Labour tax and spend plans, says Starmer. The Times, we'll tackle murder law loopholes, vow Tories. The Express, eternally in their debt. That's the D-Day story. And finally, Daily Star also runs with D-Day. Those were your front pages. OK, so let's scurry through those front pages. We're going to start with the Daily Mail. Steve, you've got this.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the front page of many newspapers, as you'd expect, but the Mail goes with, as veterans move the Queen to tears at D-Day ceremony, King pays emotional tribute, our eternal debt to the fallen heroes. She, indeed, crying like a Welsh First Minister. But it was really moving. We're at a time when it won't be the same in the future. We're at the end of the overlap where there are veterans to commemorate this with. And
yes.
It's not going to be forever. So I think it makes it even more moving. And also we're at the other part of the overlap of when it's more important to remember how wars can happen, how wars are actually the misery they are to fight, because it's not as if we're war-free these days. That spectre does loom large.
Yeah, absolutely. Very important commemoration, isn't it, Lewis? I mean, this is within living memory of some people. We think of it as fiction, we think of it as films, we think of it as Saving Private Ryan and that kind of thing. But this thing happened to these people that obviously turned up for the ceremony.
Well, not these ones. These ones are still living. You know, who knows what these people did. I mean, my father was there. He was shot twice.
He was at D-Day?
He was sort of... I couldn't get any details from the guy.
OK.
But he was sort of there.
Well, he was sort of... Well, if he's anything like you, and it sounds like he is, I'm not sure we can entirely trust that testimony, but...
Was it Darren Day he visited?
He was there. And I'll tell you something. It's like, what is learning about D-Day going to do? It was a glorious time for this country and for America, too.
It was a horrible time.
It was a great time. We won a war after... People forget about all the people who were dead. They don't know the people...
war at that stage.
The people...
No, at that stage it was very much in the balance, I think.
It was in the balance. It was a great thing. But what is getting people to learn about this thing going to do? What is it going to do for...
Well, I mean, surely you approve of the commemorations, Lewis.
I'm not so sure I do. I don't know what this does. It's like, look at people cheering on the beach in France.
And there we are, Lewis Schaefer, who can take a contrary position on absolutely anything. So let's move on now to the Times. What have we got on the front cover of the Times?
It's a busy, it's a slightly different news story for them.
Oh, wait, this is The Guardian. I apologise.
Sorry,
The Guardian.
Scientists hail bowel disease discovery. This is on the front page of The Guardian. I don't understand what they're all about. Is on one hand, they're totally team world, as I say. They want to present like this.
Lewis, what is the story though? What is the bowel disease that they've...
Genetics.
Right.
They found certain genes which are going to do it. But the truth is that bowel disease is caused by mostly by the things that we're eating, and we're eating a lot of toxicity.
Now, Steve, of course, Lewis does like to think that he knows more about nutrition than any other scientist in the world.
Yeah.
Would you tell us a bit more about this story?
Well, I think genetics is important for many of these diseases, which would end up talking about me over here.
Yeah.
In cancers, it's important.
Yes.
And they're finding it's important here. And it is. We're getting into a time when knowing about the impact of someone's genetics will then be able to tailor the treatment as well. This is exciting times unless you just ignore all of that and just go back to, oh, it's all about me.
It's exciting times. What do they need to know about genetics? They need to know about it because they want to keep track of us. Number one.
How do they track you by knowing you?
Because once they have you, they say, oh, I got to go have my genetics tested. I had my genetics tested, but lots of people do not, and I can understand why they don't. They don't want to know about it because people like you.
Why did you have your genetics tested?
Because I wanted to prove that I was who I thought I was.
Well, you're not, Lewis.
That was never in doubt.
You're an imposter. Why don't we have a look at the other story on The Guardian? Sunak lied to country over Labour tax and spend plans, says Starmer.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is interesting because during the debate, if you watched it, quite often Rishi Sunak brought up the issue of it being an extra £2,000 per family, and it was never really pushed back upon. Indeed, during the debate, the Telegraph went with the headline, Keir Starmer refuses to deny it.
So why is Starmer only now pushing back?
Because you couldn't get a word in. Honestly, if you watch all the bits again, as soon as you're going to go, I just need to say something about that, Julie Etching shuts him down and goes, well, we'll come back to that later. And eventually they did kind of come back to it. But the interesting thing here is a letter from James Bowler, who's the Treasury's permanent secretary, in which he said the ministers should not suggest that civil servants produce the figure. It's the special advisors who give the civil servants the input data. The civil servants churn it, and therefore you can't say it. And the thing that I do think people should have spotted this, right? The criticism of Labour is we don't know what the policies are. We don't know what the policies are. We don't know what the policies are. Their policies will cost this much. How did you not spot the gap? If we don't know the policies, how do you know how much it's going to cost?
Well, also, the manifesto's not out yet. You know, I think a lot will be made clear, won't it, when the manifestos come out? I'm talking about all the parties there.
Yeah.
At the moment, we're still fumbling in the dark a little bit, aren't we, Lewis?
It doesn't matter what the Tories say. They're not going to do it. So what does it matter what Rishi Sunak says?
Well, you can't possibly say that, Lewis. You don't know.
But he's had 18 months to do something. He hasn't done anything. The biggest problems have not been sorted.
Well, let's have a look at the front cover of The Times now. This is a very different story. Have you got this one, Steve?
We'll tackle murder law loopholes, vowed Tories. There's a couple of things they're planning to do. Not only change basically what... At the moment, you can plead guilty to manslaughter, so you would get a murder charge, but they just effectively rebrand it as second-degree murder, like in America. They're also saying that murderers will spend longer in prison. Good plan if we had any space in prisons.
Well, there's that. Loads. Can you clarify this for me? Because the article talks about adopting the American system of first and second-degree murder. I thought that pretty much equates to murder manslaughter. Yeah. So what exactly is the difference?
It's just a rebrand.
Is that all it is?
And I think it's a rebrand that also you could say the same thing. If we need to change it now, why did we not do it 14 years ago? Were murderers better 14 years ago? No, this should have been brought in as soon as you're in charge, if you think it's important.
Could it be, Lewis, obviously as an American, you were an expert here, that manslaughter, say, for instance, someone drives, accidentally knocks someone over and they die, that's manslaughter. That wouldn't be second-degree murder because you would have had to intend to do some harm. Have I got that right?
I think this... I don't really know that. I'm going to say that I don't know. All I know is that no one gives a hoot about this. This is not a big issue. This
well,
is
it is. No, come on. There are some murderers, as the article talks about, who are getting off lightly.
Well, there's that one case which we had here. You weren't there at the time. That guy where he did something and he got off. But meanwhile, there's a million.
Well, it's talking specifically about the 3 people stabbed in Nottingham last year.
Yes, 3 people stabbed in Nottingham. There's a million people coming into the country. That's the issue that the Tories have.
But that's a different story.
It is a big difference. I don't understand how this works. You got six weeks of electioneering. What was the 18 months beforehand and the time even before that?
Well, we're catching up to it now, at least. We're going to move on finally to the Eye. Lewis, this is a story about rivers.
Yeah, this comes out of the Eye, which isn't really a newspaper. It's a charity to help save the rivers. It's very big on the rivers, and it says it needs to clean up the rivers, and it's got the backing of all the different.
Well, it proposes 5 different pledges, doesn't it? And it wants all the major political parties to sign up to these pledges. Lewis, it's important. We want clean rivers.
We do want clean rivers, but the rivers in this country have gotten cleaner every single year. Yes, there's dumping of extra stuff, but you take a look at our beautiful Thames River right here in London, which we almost...
Are you joking? Would you like to go for a swim in that river?
I have. I got pictures on it.
Really?
You can go to lewisschafer.co.uk, or you can just Google Lewis Schafer Thames, and you will see a picture of me,
Would you go swimming in the Thames?
No, not at all. There was a thing on telly. Some bloke did a little scoop of it, sent it to a lab, and the lab had to mark it as dangerous water because it got so much E. coli in it.
Right.
And this is because we've got our rivers aren't clean. There was advice given to wild swimmers, and I don't agree with that anyway.
Yes.
But, each to their own. If you are swimming in these wild waters, try and keep your mouth shut was the actual advice. In case what? You perchance gulp
Just
a poo.
go to a swimming pool.
I agree with that. but I
Not
think
even a
that-
swimming pool. You shouldn't go to a swimming pool either because the water is horrific. You shouldn't go swimming.
So our swimming pool water's terrible, but our rivers are the cleanest.
I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm drinking it. I am drinking it. The people in this country, in
Lewis,
London.
swimming is unnatural anyway. I
It
mean, we
is.
don't have gills. You know,
Anymore.
Whales
Whales don't have gills.
Yeah, they don't swim. They bob about. they have a laugh, don't they?
All the mammals in the water don't have gills.
Well, I don't think mammals should go in the water.
I'm with Andrew.
He's hardcore.
You shouldn't go swimming. You shouldn't go swimming.
Don't get me started on bats. No, just because mammals shouldn't be flying either. We've got to stick together, guys. OK, so that's the front pages out of the way. Do join us after the break when we'll be discussing a suggestion for world peace, Starmer's dedication to the NHS, and hesitation in the Met Police. Please don't go anywhere.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In places like News Corp, right, an organisation I know reasonably well, when that poor guy died in America,
George Floyd, you're talking
about? Yes, they had a 9-minute silence for him, right? A more absurd and ridiculous idea I'd never come across in my life. How do you feel about 9 minutes for George Floyd?
Well, of course, that's the length of time that he was strangled
No,
by a police
I know why it
officer.
was, but how do you feel about that?
Well, I think a lot of the black staff, in particular in News Corp, probably appreciated the fact that it was taking a stand. And if you look at businesses...
Why do they need to take a stand about what the police do in the United States
well, what
of
about
America?
the guy... What about the jeweller tonight who has died in Richmond in Surrey when two, how shall we put them, hoodlums of colour actually had a chokehold? He went home and he killed himself. There are lots of things going on in our world, as you well know, which are very upsetting.
OK.
And if we're going to stop every time that somebody dies in unfortunate circumstances, we'll never get any work done.
Well, Stella, a final word to you.
I think sometimes, yes, equality and diversity can be a waste of money when it goes to things that are not necessary for the function of the organisation. But when just last year you had Birmingham Council being pushed into bankruptcy because they were found out to not have given women equal wages,
No, because they paid bin men more than they paid cooks.
But then you can see Ben's point that if they had someone who was looking appropriately in equality and diversity and the actual practical policy implications of what they were doing, then maybe you wouldn't have this situation. You wouldn't have this legal liability. That's what Ben is saying. This is a multi-million pounds organisation. Like, it needs to have someone looking seriously and taking responsibility for these decisions.
The People's Channel.
This is GB News and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but actually it's about you.
And we won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear
all sides
as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's election channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Yeah. Welcome back to Headliners. It's your first look at Thursday's newspapers. With me, Andrew Doyle, and I've got comedians Stephen Allen and Lewis Schaefer here. Well, semi-comedian there. We're going to begin with Wednesday's Guardian. Steve, a difficult day for Vaughan Gething.
Yes, Welsh First Minister Vaughan Gething loses confidence vote. But not only that, I think the bigger deal is that he cried during the debate. I mean, there's a great way to make people not have confidence in. Who have you got confidence in? The guy down the front with the snot bubble.
Now, this is a bit of a sort of soap opera, isn't it? Because the reason why he lost the vote was that two of the Labour MPs were ill.
Well... Yeah.
Well, were they ill? Because one of them had been sacked by him, right? So that would suggest... And the other one had been openly critical of him.
And
so they're not
some bad prawn.
They're not his mates. But, yeah, food poisoning can hit you. Yeah, I don't want to cast aspersions.
But also, apparently, there's a convention where if you lose 2 of the voters from one side, the tradition is that 2 would step down to balance the vote, and they didn't.
Didn't
so
happen.
Actually, you would have got a score draw, I suppose. But I mean, look, I've got Welsh ancestry, so I think I'm okay when I can say that. For a Welshman to cry, if a Welshman has a wet shirt, it shouldn't be through crying, it should be through trying to pronounce the alphabet. I think this is an absolute, well, soap opera is the right thing. There's the scandal about the £200,000 donation that he took from someone who's dumping waste somewhere.
Yes.
We don't like dumping. There's also some deleted messages.
That's suspicious.
It's suspicious. Well, we know that Boris Johnson did a factory reset and Rebecca Vardy lost a phone. They're the same people, basically. And
the person he sacked was the one that he'd accused of leaking this idea that he deleted the message. So it's all quite, interesting, isn't it?
We say interesting. This vote of confidence or no confidence doesn't make a difference. The guy can still turn up to work.
A lot of intrigue going on in Wales. Welsh men shouldn't cry, Lewis. Druids don't cry. They're too busy picking out entrails and reading the future and stuff.
That's prejudice against Druids.
I don't like them.
The truth is men can cry. And, I would cry if I looked like this guy. He's like one of the ugliest guys.
That's very unfair.
I don't care.
I don't think it's true. I think he's very dashing.
I don't think he is. He's like the worst of both because he's a mixture, and he's like he doesn't turn out looking that good. Here's the point.
Just before you get us all thrown off here, I want to get a sentence in before this bit gets cut.
Yeah.
He only had the gig for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's 84 days. That's 1.7 Liz Trusses.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's done well.
Yeah, so why were they so unhappy with him in just 84 days? That's the question.
Well, it's what Steve was just talking about. It's about all this stuff to do with the deleting text and the £200,000 in donations.
They knew that before. They knew all of this beforehand. I don't know. I'm going to have to find out what's more about it. The truth is that Wales, a fantastic place. I've spent many an hour there. But it's what happens. It's what happens when you lose your own country. The Welsh are people. They were the original Britishy type people, and they lost their country to immigrants, not to Romans. They were pushed out by the Germans, the Angles, the Saxons,
by everyone.
The Vikings, by everyone.
The Druids had to run off to Anglesey. Imagine that.
Yeah, and that's the furthest.
They didn't cry about it.
No.
That's the furthest.
Druids are real men. I'll leave you with that. All right, we're going to move on to the Telegraph now. Ian Duncan-Smith thinks that learning about D-Day could be the secret to world peace. Now, we sort of touched on this earlier, Lewis.
Yeah.
You weren't convinced that learning about D-Day was important. I would suggest, though, some of the statistics on this. I mean, what's this about kids? 18 to 13-year-olds, they only 48% recognise the term D-Day and what it means, which suggests that 52% haven't got a clue.
Right. Why? Because what does D-Day stand for? Does it stand for Landing Day or attacking Germans in France Day? We don't know what it does. So that's, of course, people know. They know that there was an invasion. I assume that they do. I don't know what these young kids are doing.
I tried to convince them earlier that it stood for Normandy Day.
It does, yeah, Normandy Day.
Normandy.
Listen, keep your jokes to yourself.
Now, listen, Lewis, it is terribly important. It was a turning point in the war. It was an incredible sacrifice.
Yes, it was.
So, I mean, surely, Steve, isn't there a bigger problem here that kids don't know about history, full stop?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought we were teaching this at school. We did when I went to school, and then I'm reminded of how long ago that was. Although Ian Duncan-Smith in this says that teaching this will be the thing that stops future war, or stops the war happening soon.
I'm not so sure about that.
The turnaround's not quick enough, is it? If you learn this if you're 14 now, yes, in the future you'll be some sort of leader or voter, but it's not going to have any impact on what's happening with Russia.
It will not turn it around because it's a sign of us winning. And so when we think, it's easy for us to win, look, we won a D-Day.
Well, also, why is D-Day? I mean, I don't think learning about D-Day specifically would prevent future wars, because by that point the war was well underway. You want to talk about the sort of machinations that went on before and the ways in which it could have been averted and all the political wranglings and that kind of... But that's not so interesting, is it?
No, although school's not necessarily meant to be interesting.
No, it's not.
I do think learning all of those details would be... It's useful to get
what I think we should do? We should bring back Latin and Greek at school so that people feel a connection to the past.
So
I think that's what we've lost. I think people don't care about the past.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that. I think what it is it's that we're in a new world and people are actually thinking maybe the Germans aren't that bad anymore. So
is that what you think?
I don't think the lesson is that we should hate the Germans. I think it's a wider picture.
Yeah, that is the lesson. The fact is that we don't hate the Germans anymore. I met many nice Germans. They seem to be nice. And people don't hate the Germans the way they used to hate the Germans.
Are you good at your history, Lewis?
Yes, I am. You can ask me about anything.
Anything?
Yeah.
OK. In what year did the Jack the Ripper murders occur?
I would say...
You know nothing.
1880. 1906.
1888, not bad. OK, let's move on anyway.
Was that good? Was that close?
You were 8 years off, so actually...
Got an alibi.
I feel chastened by that. OK, we're going to move on to the Daily Mail now. What's this about Keir Starmer wanting to hurt his family? What's that?
Keir Starmer insists he would never use private healthcare, even if a relative was stuck on a waiting list, because the NHS is in his DNA. And I agree. I don't like some of my family members either, so fair enough. But it was in the ITV debate. Fingers on buzzers question, just a quick little, speed round. They were both asked if a relative was on a waiting list to use private healthcare. Starmer said that because it was in his DNA, he mentioned that his wife works for the National Health Service. He mentioned that the people in the National Health Service use tools, and his dad was a tool maker.
Yes.
Probably swung one of those in. Got about 8 of those through there. It's a theoretical question, so maybe he truly believes it. Maybe he believes it now, given the state of the NHS now. If it got worse, maybe that would change. The article really brushes over the fact that Rishi said he would use private healthcare, but of course he would. Because he's so... Imagine asking your billionaire wife, would you sit this one out and go on a waiting list? Because
of course. Isn't this a bit like, when politicians... People have a go at them when they don't send their kids to state schools. Yeah. So they have to sort of send them to the dodgy local comp when they really want to send them to the posh one where they're going to get into Oxbridge. But also, this makes me a bit ill. I mean, come on, Lewis. If you're rich, if you're posh, if you've got money, stop clogging up the NHS. Right? Go to a private hospital. Stop being so bloody selfish.
Yeah, you're saying that as a half joke.
No, I mean it.
But it's actually true. But why would anybody want to go to any health service? Why do you even want to think about it?
The NHS is brilliant.
It is as brilliant as anything in America, which means it's not brilliant. The medical system
has flaws.
The medical system today is not fit for purpose.
Well, I tell you what, Lewis, if you're poor and you can't afford all that health care that you get in America by, selling your right leg or whatever, over here you can actually get treated, even if you're poor.
No, you can't. They don't treat rich people either. Even at the private or public, they don't get... I've seen it. I'm 60... You are still young and beautiful, Andrew.
I am.
I'm 67 years old.
You're still lying about that.
I've used health, yes.
OK, one day I'm going to reveal your real age and all of your follower count will disappear. Let's move on now to the Daily Mail. The police are reluctant to stop trouble in case it gets them into trouble. Lewis.
Oh, is this me?
It is.
Yeah, this is this guy, Mark Rowley. He's the Met Police Chief, and he was interviewed again, but they didn't ask him the main. They didn't ask him the main question: is why are they giving such, the people who watch this channel such horribleness? And he's saying that the police don't want to get involved in things. They're very hesitant. But that's what policemen are. They don't want to get involved. Naturally, they don't. These policemen, why do people have a job? They have a job because they think they're not good at it. People who are very funny, like you, Stephen. That's why you do all the funny things.
It wasn't a compliment, was it? It was people have a job because they're not good at it, like you, Stephen, who's a comedian.
Yeah, you're trying to be funny, basically.
Yeah, I don't have to be funny because I'm secure.
Isn't
secure?
Isn't Mark Rowley sort of making a point that we all kind of know that the police are a bit standoffish about it because they are worried about making a mistake.
But they've always been.
But when they make mistakes, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
I think he's saying it is worse now because they're under pressure and the impact of that worry. I think this is true. If you're not having people in the police volunteer for the training courses, you're going to have an under-trained force.
Yes.
And that's one of the things he's saying. I mean, often Mark Rowley sits around and says, we don't want armchair police commissioning. It basically doesn't want criticism. But in this one, I think he's got a good point, that if we are going to over-analyse the police, they need to be analysed, but you need to have a system in place where police can be police, otherwise you don't have any police.
Absolutely. OK, well, let's move on. Finally, in this section, things heating up in the Express. Steve.
Climate hell. Exit needed. Well, that's in quote marks, and I think that's how you meant to say it. As world braced for year-long breach of 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2028, scientists predicted a year-long global temperature increase. Here's the problem. This is a bad time to mention it. This year has been dull. So you can talk about 1.5 increase, and it's be
right.
We're all going to die, but it'd be nice to die with a tan. Am I asking too much?
Is this just another one of these sort of doom-mongering articles that come out every now and then saying the world's going to end, and then it doesn't? Well, it just sort of carries on.
If they're implying the world's going to end, the world's not going to end. They might move the areas in which humanity can live.
But I remember when I was at school and our geography teacher said there would be no fossil fuels by the year 2005.
Yeah, but before...
But I'm still driving my car.
Technology stepped in and sorted it out for us before... before I can't remember, before the Harbour process came about.
You've hit on it. Why are we getting so uptight about this stuff? Why does Greta Thunberg never say, you know what, maybe if we just invest into technology, we might solve this problem, rather than spitting at Van Gogh
Because they want us to live in a constant state of fear and at the same time know that we're being lied to. And the fact that we're accepting this as a lie, most people think this is a lie. The whole thing, I couldn't read this article because it's complete and utter garbage.
Well, I'm glad you read it.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think everyone thinks it's a lie, and there's a lot of climate scientists who would slap you silly for that remark.
And I would enjoy it, but that still makes it a lie.
Yeah, but that's
the fact
a
that they need to slap me silly over this thing.
But if there's like 95% of climate scientists think one thing, you've got 5% thinking the other, and you think 5% is everyone, and you've failed maths.
Yeah, but he's not good at maths. He's not good at maths.
But it's a similar thing with the COVID thing, Steve.
Before we move away from that, though, I do think that...
People don't
you're talking about COVID.
Yeah,
Wait, let Steve finish this point.
OK.
And then I'm going to interrupt you and go to a break. Let's go.
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres is wrong. He says, we're worried about this and therefore we need to stop fossil fuel companies advertising. What a stupid move. Because I've never sat at home thinking I wasn't going to burn myself like a cubic metre of gas, but that advert looks good. The one thing I want to mention is it's the industry and the technology that needs to fix it. The phrase carbon footprint was invented by the fossil fuel industry so that we feel the blame, so we're stupidly recycling stuff. The industry needs to be the ones to do things.
Yes.
Don't blame the little people.
And the Chinese government. Can we deal with them? Because
you can email them first before
Or just say, what they call fossil fuels, which aren't fossil fuels, are the greatest thing that has happened to our lives.
Right, well, I'm going to send a stern email to Xi Jinping. And believe you me, my emails work. That's the end of part 2. Don't go anywhere. After the break, we're going to be discussing wrong-uns in the arts, saints in the teaching profession, and a soft centre where you would least expect it. See you in a minute.
Hello, welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Tomorrow's going to be another fairly cool day across the northwest with a risk of some further heavy showers, and we could see some further heavy showers this evening with a northwesterly wind pushing showers into similar areas. It's northwestern Scotland where we're going to see the highest rainfall totals. Through the next 24 hours or so, we could see a mix of hail, possibly some hill snow in there as well. We could also see some showers as far south as southwestern England overnight tonight. Many western areas seeing a bit more in the way of cloud tonight compared to last night. So it will be a bit of a milder night for some of us, but I think still where skies stay the clearest, there's a risk of a rural grass frost. So potentially another chilly start for some areas, particularly across eastern Scotland, where it will be a bright start to the day, plenty of early sunshine. But notice we've got some bright colours on those showers, showing the heaviness of them through tomorrow morning. We could see some spray on the roads because of that across western areas of Scotland, in towards northwestern England as well as parts of Wales. The Midlands as well, potentially seeing some fairly heavy showers, but most of us getting away with a dry and bright start despite the chillier feel to things at the moment. So another fairly cool day to come tomorrow, especially for the time of year, and if you are further north and west, where it will be another showery day. There's another risk of thunderstorms, potentially some hail as well in those showers, especially as we head in towards Thursday evening here. Elsewhere across Wales, central areas of England and across the south coast in particular, they still feel fairly pleasant in the sunshine, highs of 18, possibly 19 degrees, so that's not too bad for the time of year. Now into Friday, we start to see a band of more persistent rain push across the UK, so that will bring a greater risk of some showery outbreaks of rain a bit more widely across the UK. So a bit more in the way of cloud, and it will still be another fairly cool day. But looking ahead to the weekend, it does look like there's been more in the way of sunshine more widely across the country, and temperatures returning to the low 20s for some of us.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m, followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain, followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Thursday's newspapers. We're going to open this section with The Telegraph now. News that the Iron Lady was softer than we thought.
Yes, this is Salman Rushdie, who anti-Thatcher, was unexpectedly very touchy-feely, reveals Rushdie. And he met her after he wrote that book, which I haven't read, which no one's read, because the Iranians said they're going to kill the guy for printing the book.
Well, so the book, you mean the Satanic Verses?
Satanic Verses, right? So he's on. This is what's his name, Salman Rushdie, and he's on this How to Fail podcast, and he basically says he met Margaret Thatcher, and she was very touchy-feely.
Now, he's not the only one. You see, when Christopher Hitchens met Margaret Thatcher, he said she slapped him on the bottom. So, I mean, there's something about...
is that what touchy-feely means?
Well, you know, she was very sort of I think she was quite playful and quite funny, and I don't think people realised how funny she was.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it.
With people who maybe weren't a threat to her?
Or they're just people that she met, and she's, you know, I think this is something that people don't know about her, but I think I can completely see it. What do you think?
I imagine if you are living under such high security, there's a fatwa against you, you're spending a lot of time indoors, and all of a sudden, you'd be grateful for anything, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Thatcher turns up and gives you on the old bottom. You're like, oh.
Yes.
You wouldn't complain, but I'd complain now because I get out more. I don't want people like Margaret Thatcher slapping my bottom. You don't question. I don't know if that.
I found her very attractive, but then again, I'm an American. We weren't taught to hate her by you people.
There is that. She was always very well turned out, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Immaculate hair, wonderful brooches.
She also grew up above a shop, and she learned how to treat people, like our Mark whatever it is.
She was a chemist.
And a chemist.
And she invented Mr. Whippy ice cream.
Well, worked in the development of the emulsifier or something like that.
My version is better.
Yeah.
Let's stick with that one. Okay. So the Times next, and we find out the best time for women to take up MMA, Formula One, and other challenging tasks, like dealing with Lewis Schaefer. When is that best time?
Well, for some of those, never would be my advice, but women's reaction times improve during their periods.
Right.
So if you've ever wondered why you can't dodge the crockery being thrown at you in your marriage, this would be why. Science can answer it. When women are actually on their period, their speed and reaction times improve, even though women in sport say they feel sluggish during that time.
Yes.
So science has said you are wrong to women on their period. So good luck passing that news on. Experts say that women are slower in the luteal phase.
What phase?
The period before the period. This whole thing is badly named. They've got higher level of progesterone, which makes your brain a bit slower. Yeah. And I think I know why reaction times would be faster during a period. This is like evolutionary pressures. Back in caveman days, if you want to eat, you either got to get out there and hunt, or you can be fed by the community and the family that you're in. And that's the one time when the caveman is saying, I'm off, mate. So you've got to fend for yourself.
Lewis, I love to learn about the menstrual cycle. It's the thing I don't really know enough about.
Well, I'm surprised that this is news. Anybody who's ever dealt with a woman when they're on their whatever, you don't want to know it. And so you don't want to be with them, which is why they shouldn't allow women to work, whatever. But
Lewis, you want to go back to biblical times where women who menstruated had to sit in a tent and isolate themselves.
Yeah, and you've never seen that, so how can you criticise?
What do you mean, I've never seen that? I've never seen a woman retreat to a tent because of her menstrual cycle.
No, but you've never been in a position where you are, like, married to a girl. Maybe she's pregnant. Maybe she's,
You don't know.
I do know. I do know you've gotten away with murder.
You don't know about my past.
Anybody who's ever had anything to do with women know that they're best avoided.
OK, well, if you're a woman, please do feel free to tweet in. Actually, just tweet Lewis.
I don't really Lewis Schaefer.
Go and see a show when you're on your period.
We're going to go to the Daily Mail next. And what's this one? This is about... oh, no. No, it is the Daily Mail. This is WFH culture. What's that?
What? No, that's another one. An unexpected side effect of WFH culture, which is...
working from home.
I'm gonna get to it. So I'm not this guy. I can't be booked with this guy. This guy's he's too prepared.
I didn't say anything.
You did, because you've made him all like nervous, and I'm not going to get to my point.
Hello, I'm Andrew.
Yeah.
OK, explain the story, Lewis.
It just they did a test. They did a test of in Denmark of people who've donated to this Kairos International for like sperm thing, and they found that in the past 8 years, sperm motility, that's the movement, that's how fast, like if you dump some sperm, and I've had my sperm tested many times.
Yes.
It's delicious.
He doesn't know about menstrual cycles, but you're all right with
but they're talking about the motility of the sperm.
The motility is down.
And that's to do with how quickly someone gets pregnant? Is that what it is?
Yeah, no, that's how. Yeah, kind of. It kind of hurts it if the sperm is not moving.
Yes.
Then it can't do its job, and they're blaming it. I don't know what they're blaming it on, but the truth is, it's probably just food and plastics.
Okay, now why did they do this, Steve?
Well, it's interesting because the presumption, and other studies have found that there's been a slow decline in sperm levels in men, both like the amount of sperm and motility. However, this one said the numbers were fine, actually.
Yeah.
For a 6-year period, they stayed the same. However, 2020 took another hit.
So why is that? Because everyone's working from home, being a bit lazy. That then translates into lazy spermatozoa.
Bad food, no exercise. Also, the temperature of the testy impacts it. So either sitting around with, like, jogging bottoms, or climate change.
OK, or the feminisation of culture, which I think is Lewis's
I would say that too, yeah, they're at home.
OK, let's move on to the Times now. Keira Knightley has some bright ideas about broadcasters. What's this about?
Actresses unite to tell studios, fund the bullying watchdog. Female stars have signed this letter. There's already this watchdog been set up, and they think instead of just a one-off payment, it should be a regular thing. There's Ruth Wilson, Keira Knightley, Cara Delevingne. Also, one of the actresses that signed the letter is Ophelia Lovibond. And I believe she's been bullied, probably at school. If your first name sounds like Copping a Feel and your surname is a sex glue, then I imagine you're going to get some sort of bullying.
Is that a real name?
Ophelia Lovibond, yeah.
OK.
She was in the American version of Sherlock Holmes.
Well, you know what we're doing now, Steve? We're bullying her right now, aren't we?
Well, there's a whole group set up for this called the Creative Industries Independent Standards Authority, the KISA. And they just want not just one-off payments, regular payments. And actually, I think there's something in it. It is an industry that has bullying.
Yeah, every industry has bullying. So I worked in a call centre. People would physically punch you in the face. Well, not quite, but they would be very, aggressive.
Yeah.
And teaching, forget about it.
Forget about it.
Teaching. It's loads of bullies in teaching.
What
about this place? I bully you all the time.
Totally you do.
Shut up, Lewis.
You do. Luckily, it's being filmed. And
yeah, it doesn't matter.
And
we don't have an HR department that's going to take me down.
They've seen my tears from you. The point is I'm quite involved in the film industry, as
yes,
you know.
You are.
I was just in a film just yesterday, the day before.
And were you bullied by the director?
No, it's the Steven Soderbergh film, latest one that's being filmed right now, Steven Soderbergh. He's the guy who did Oceans 11, 12, and 13.
He did The Limey, which is a rather good film.
I didn't see that.
With Terence Stamp, I think.
Anyway, he's amazing. But I've been on film sets, and they are the nicest you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, here's my problem with this, Steve, is that when they say there's 92% of people who've experienced harassment and bullying, I think those terms have got a bit weakened. Like, we're not... One person's bullying is just someone else's, I don't know, encouragement.
Yeah, and I think it's particularly bad in this industry, their industry. We're not really the same ballpark, are we? But you'd be so desperate to keep the job that maybe you'd put up with more, and they're saying that needs to be looked at. As long as they're looking at it, then I think this KISA might be a good...
Not that I support workplace bullying, I'm not so sure it's that prevalent.
This is a prelude to the end of the world.
There we go. OK, on that note, we're going to move on to a story in The Guardian about primary school teachers spending their money, Lewis.
Yes, this is another one of those things, really.
News stories?
No, stories that involve women complaining.
Lewis Schaefer. Do you know what? We do have female viewers, you know.
I know we did.
We did, exactly.
And I love the female viewers.
You were determined to alienate half of our viewers.
Do you know what? If only my girlfriend watched the show. Then I would have to watch what I'm saying, but she's not. She needs to go to sleep early. She's not watching it. Anyway, I think she's not watching. Anyway, says Aiden, they did a study. This National Foundation for Educational Research did a study, and they asked 1,300 school teachers, and they found a lot of stuff, which is like...
They're spending money on the kids.
On the kids. But in every job, you spend money on your own business. You buy things or whatever you have.
But this is different. This is kids turning up to school so raggedy and so malnourished, and that the teachers feel they have to buy them food and clothes.
So what do you think I'm going to
shoes.
say about this?
I think you're going to say that teaching is the best profession that you can possibly pursue.
My mother
and that
was
you should be better remunerated.
No, I don't think so, and that's what this is all about. It's all about let's pay teachers more. I don't think so. I think they should disband the public school system, and they should have private teachers and have people decide, where they want to go to school and who they're being paid for.
Are you like one of these who think that kids should just not be educated, like Blake used to think? Just let them run free and they'll just naturally learn the ways of the world.
They could just watch YouTube videos about science, couldn't they? They could know as much as you.
Yeah, they could. I've watched thousands of hours of this with an open mind. I wasn't so indebted to this system as you.
This is bad.
I think it's bad. There are two sides of this. There's the having to bring food in for the hungry children and coats for the cold ones. That's terrible. I mean, that's a societal issue. There's also many turning up without the kit for the studying.
Yes.
I've always thought that really schools should be the place that just hands you the pens and papers and stuff. Why do you have to provide that?
Because you learn discipline.
You can learn discipline another way, instead of just having kids turn out without the ability to write and therefore, like, fail a lesson. No. If you turn up for a seminar like you have to these days in various industries, and yet some hotel somewhere with terrible coffee, they've got pens and paper for you there.
Well, you know, at the Michaela School, if you forget your pen, you get a detention automatically.
Oh, dear.
Well, they get the best results. Just saying.
Can I tell you what it does? It sees who has good parents, and those are the parents that we want to. Those are the kids that we want to move forward.
Yeah, the posher kids.
The posher kids. Yeah,
absolutely. OK, let's time for a break now. Do join us in the final section for sugar addiction, shin kicking, and the answer to one of nature's greatest mysteries. Please don't go anywhere.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
What about the elections? Because it seems that the king and everything is moving because of it, and we've got a lot of royal engagements and things that happen at this time.
Yes, well, you know, it means that he has to take more time and be at home. He can't go to all the things he wants to do. He's been doing 5 a day, which is probably made Camilla a bit cross. But what they still hope is that they can get the Japanese emperor and empress over. That's in July. That they can go to France for the 80th anniversary of the fighting. And he will be able to do 1 or 2 things. And Ascot he's very keen to do. Now, those aren't things that are political in any way. Just want to talk about Harry and Charles's argument, where Harry said he didn't want to stay, he wanted to go to a hotel. And it's come out now that actually King Charles is believed that he was offered St James's, and Princess Anne stays there and Beatrice stays there.
And this was for when Harry came over for his 10th anniversary.
And the policemen are wandering around with guns, and there's no chance of actually there being any problem there. So the fact that he said that it wasn't safe for him was not actually a very sensible thing to say, I don't think.
Well, he went to Nigeria, and that is, in the world ranking, it's ranked as quite a dangerous place.
Yes, one of the dangerous places in the world. But now Harry and Meghan have been invited to go to Ghana.
Oh, God. Well, it's interesting because my parents are from Ghana. I have Ghanaian heritage, and I'm thinking she'll probably then claim there's a percentage that she's Ghanaian as well. I'll be like, hang on a minute, you were Maltese, you're also Nigerian,
and
now
German,
you're going to say you're Ghanaian and German.
Yeah.
Come on. Thank you very much.
Squeeze it in.
Yeah, let's get them all in. Angela Levin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The People's Channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do. His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Thursday's newspapers. We're going to kick off this section with The Guardian, which, surprise, surprise, is a story about race. Steve.
Racial resentment was a factor in violence of the 6th of January 2021, study says. So political observers previously have blamed hyper-partisanship and political polarisation.
I'd say that was part of it.
Well, that's exactly when you read on and they say, well, actually, there's a message about it was mainly black cities messing with the vote and that riled people up. I think if you do a Venn diagram of this racial resentment and hyper-partisanship, there's no new area being coloured in. It's all covered by what you think already.
Well, also, how did they find out? Did they interview the people from January the 6th?
No, they interviewed people and then did the survey of, like, do you think that...
So it's mind reading.
Yeah.
It's mind reading.
What do you think about the accusations of January 6th, and what do you think about this question to do with affirmative action? They always say that do you think it's unfair to white people? The thing that you're missing out here is it's massively unfair to Asian people, and if there's any logic to this, January 6th should have had way more Asian students being upset.
It's just probably the activists at The Guardian trying to racialise everything again, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest, that isn't the most interesting or important thing about the January the 6th. Event.
No, I don't think it is. That, you know, when you read the thing, you just think, of course, this is in The Guardian.
Yeah.
And of course, the Asian people are not involved. They're busy at school, working. They don't have time to go to these demonstrations. It's just like the kind of lazy white people that are going to the thing. So what is it saying? It's saying that the people went to January 6th because the black cities...
It's very tenuous, isn't it? So I don't think we should give it any more time. Let's move on now. This is also The Guardian. Lewis, I'm going to give you this story with some dread. Because it's about sugar.
It's about sugar.
Get on my phone.
You don't have to. You don't have to. No, you should pay attention to this, and you'd be healthier. What they're saying is, this is The Guardian. This is The Guardian. Anything in The Guardian, all the whole newspapers in this country are so garbage. Your brain's seen sugar as a reward, but does that mean it's addictive? And the answer is no. Sugar isn't. Nobody's sitting there going, "Oh, I got to have sugar. I got to have sugar." What happens is once you have the sugar, it takes over your body, and then it becomes moreish.
Is that all it is?
That's all
I've seen a woman eat 12 Easter eggs in one sitting.
Yeah, but did you see her eat the first Easter egg, and what happened?
I must have missed that bit. Why? What would have been significant about that?
What happens is it turns down the mitochondria, it reduces the leptin, it does all these things. I've seen videos about this. I haven't said, oh, I went to this university, and now I know everything. I've actually done the work.
Well, look,
I've done the work of watching YouTube.
Steve, it is much better than a PhD. But Steve, sugar, of course, is addictive, right?
Well, it comes down to the definition of what's actually addictive. They say it's not like cocaine, where you can see like the chemical pathways.
Yes.
But if you compare it to things that we always call addictive, using social media, gambling, that has an impact on you where you like it, so you choose to do it more. The definition includes it is a thing that means you want to do it again.
Anything can be addictive.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Lewis, you're addicted to winding me up.
Might as well face
because it feels good when you do that to you. The point is, with sugar, it is actually, I believe this, it is actually, it isn't addictive, but it affects the body.
OK, let's quickly go on to The Independent now with a British sport that's yet to catch on in the rest of the world, Steve.
Man who won Shin kicking world title on first try defends crown.
Shin kicking?
It looks stupid. But to be fair, no one's been put in a coma through this, and yet boxing has got a bit of a problem, hasn't it? So 34-year-old Mike Newby, who's an account director, we'd all love to kick one of those, he celebrates his win. He's been in training again for the next one. He's been doing, like, hitting himself with hammers. He's basically miseried himself.
This is a real thing?
This is the Cotswolds Olympic. I don't know if the limp needs underlining because of this part, but they've got other events. They've got tug of war, hammer throwing. They don't have the Dorset knob toss, which is a shame. Because
I'm sorry.
That one, because if ever you Google it, you'll find out that the knob is a biscuit.
Yes.
It makes even less sense. Why would you throw away a biscuit?
What is the point of excelling at these stupid, self-harming sports? Like those idiots in Gloucester who chuck themselves down hills after cheese.
The cost of living crisis means, actually, that was a good piece of cheese.
OK.
Why do people do it? They do it because they want to get out of the house away from their wife.
Is that all it is?
Yeah.
His wife goes with his girlfriend goes with him.
Yeah.
You know those people, when they chuck themselves down the mountain for the cheese, they end up with broken bones? There's ambulances at the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah, they'd rather be doing that than have to be home.
All right, well, let's have a shin kicking contest very soon. But anyway, that is all we've got time for. But let's have another quick look at Thursday's front pages. So the Daily Mail is leading with our eternal debt to the fallen heroes. The Telegraph has got Hunt issues challenge to Starmer over taxes on property. The Guardian is leading with Sunak lied to country over Labour tax and spend plans, says Starmer. The Times on Thursday is running with will tackle murder law loopholes, vow Tories, and the Express has got a D-Day story there, eternally in their debt, and the Daily Star has an identical headline. Those were your front pages. That is all we've got time for. Thanks ever so much to my wonderful guests, Steve N. Allen and Lewis Schaefer. We are back, of course, tomorrow at 11 o'clock with Nick Dixon, Lewis Schaefer and Cressida Wetton. But if you're watching this at 5 a.m. for the repeat, please do stay tuned, because now it's breakfast.
I can't wait.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Tomorrow's going to be another fairly cool day across the northwest with a risk of some further heavy showers, and we could see some further heavy showers this evening with a northwesterly wind pushing showers into similar areas. It's northwestern Scotland where we're going to see the highest rainfall totals. Through the next 24 hours or so, we could see a mix of hail, possibly some hill snow in there as well. We could also see some showers as far south as southwestern England overnight tonight. Many western areas seeing a bit more in the way of cloud tonight compared to last night. So it will be a bit of a milder night for some of us, but I think still where skies stay the clearest, there's a risk of a rural grass frost. So potentially another chilly start for some areas, particularly across eastern Scotland, where it will be a bright start to the day, plenty of early sunshine. But notice we've got some bright colours on those showers, showing the heaviness of them through tomorrow morning. We could see some spray on the roads because of that across western areas of Scotland, in towards northwestern England, as well as parts of Wales. The Midlands as well, potentially seeing some fairly heavy showers, but most of us getting away with a dry and bright start despite the chillier feel to things at the moment. So another fairly cool day to come tomorrow, especially for the time of year, and if you are further north and west, where it will be another showery day. There's another risk of thunderstorms, potentially some hail as well in those showers, especially as we head in towards Thursday evening here. Elsewhere across Wales, central areas of England and across the south coast in particular, it still feel fairly pleasant in the sunshine, highs of 18, possibly 19 degrees, so that's not too bad for the time of year. Now into Friday, we start to see a band of more persistent rain push across the UK, so that will bring a greater risk of some showery outbreaks of rain a bit more widely across the UK. So a bit more in the way of cloud, and it will still be another fairly cool day. But looking ahead to the weekend, it does look like there's been more in the way of sunshine more widely across the country, and temperatures returning to the low 20s for some of us.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We've got summer sewn up with an incredible trio of treats, and you could win them. First, there's a fabulous £15,000 in tax-free cash to ensure this summer is special. What would you spend that on? Next, you'll also receive the latest iPhone 15 and a set of Apple AirPods. And finally, £500 to spend at your favourite UK attraction. Fun in the sun could be on us. For a chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do. His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
You'll have one of me one day.
Yeah, for dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're
Proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening and welcome to Vote 2024, The People Decide with me, Camilla Tominey. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to be reflecting, of course, on the TV debate between Sunak and Starmer, particularly those comments on private healthcare and the tax row. We'll also be crossing over to Ellie Costello in Normandy to give us the latest on the D-Day commemorations, which today featured a very heartfelt speech by the King. And we'll be reflecting on that no confidence vote in Welsh First Minister Vaughan Gething. But first, here's the news with Polly Middlehurst.